expand, and empower. That's your result. And I want to be really clear that no one can do this but you. Expansion and empowerment are gifts you give yourself when you show up and you do the work.
Ooh, who felt that? I sure did. And I've said it a million times on HIListically Speaking, even coaches need coaches. And that includes yours truly, Hilary Russo here. Every single guest on my show is like a masterclass. And let me just say, if you're going to pick a conversation to tune into to get pumped for the new year, this is it. Because we're about to get brave and face fear head on. And my guest, Heather Vickery, is here to guide us. And notice I did not say empower. That's up to you, remember? We're just part of the journey. And that is the kind of kick-ass coach Heather truly is. You know what they say. Let your vibe attract your tribe. And that's why she's here. Heather is a success coach, helping her clients build businesses they love, learning from her own experiences, and yes, empowerment. She's a fellow podcaster, a mom, and an author, and so much more. And we're going to touch on all of that, including what it means to be brave, take the leap, and embrace your fears. Be open to asking for help, and yes, set some firm boundaries. Plus, she also is going to share her number one rule in life that you'll definitely want to hear.
I know the girl with mountains in her eyes.
All right, Heather. This is going to get an explicit warning on the HIListically Speaking Podcast. I love it. Once in a while, we just got to drop the F-bomb. Once in a while, it just feels good to drop the good old F-bomb. So
Yes.
I'm really glad you're here. Heather Vickery is joining me. And she's going to tell us how to, I'm going to say it, fuck fearless. Ooh, that felt good.
It feels good, right? It's my favorite word. So,
it's not a bad word. It is just an empowering word. And if you use it well and you say it well, there's a lot that stands behind it. And it's an empowering word. But the real thing about, what you're bringing to the table, and I love that we're able to chat about this, is your brave method. I learned about you from my podcast producer, Alan Seals, who you are now going to be doing a podcast with. Alan and I go back years. We've known each other like 2 decades. And when he suggests somebody to me, I'm like, I'm on it. But just talking with you prior and having a chance to chat, you bring so much to the table on empowerment and living a brave life and taking that brave leap, like you say. So I want to hold space for you to share your story. And thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah. So the title of the book is, in fact, called Fuck Fearless. Well, you didn't even say I have a book. I have a new book out. Hey. And it's called Fuck Fearless. And people are like, interesting title choice. It's very intentional. I use that word very intentionally because I am so tired of society telling us that we are supposed to be fearless to be successful or to be great leaders. No, we're not. We're not fearless. We're human. We're honest. And if we're thoughtful, we're afraid of some things. And what we have the power to do is take that fear, break it down, learn from it, and then leverage that knowledge into intentional bravery. And that is how we get it done.
Love that. And you talk about this whole thing about coming out of fear and going into bravery. But what actually got you into this? I know you've been through a series of transformations and shifts in your own life, right? And we'll get to that. Yeah. But, we have a choice. And a lot of times we go to fear because fear is inauthentic. Fear is also the unknown. It's easier to go to that place. But what was your change and transition?
Yeah. So I have been, and my story, whether or not it's common, I'm not sure, but I've been an entrepreneur since I was really young. I learned very quickly out of college that while I worked well with people, I didn't work well for them. And my parents are both entrepreneurs. I know, isn't that funny? I'm like, no, I'm not, you're not going to tell me what to do. Story of my life. And so that was easy. Like somehow building my first business out of nothing, that didn't feel so hard or scary. And I know that that's really terrifying for some people. what felt hard and scary for me, where my life really transitioned, was after a decade of marriage and 4 kids, realizing that I was married to the wrong gender and living this small, sad, unhappy, fear-based life. And to take several years worth of, self-inflicted trauma, we can call it trauma, societally, patriarchally inflicted trauma, whatever you want to call it, and merge it down into very briefly is, at one point, it just became impossible to not create change. So I do a lot of talking with people about the importance of boundaries. And in fact, in the book, we talk about why we should set boundaries, how we can set them, what kind of boundaries can we set, what makes them work. But boundaries are limits that define acceptable behavior. And what I find is then that when what we're currently doing is no longer acceptable, then we change it and we set boundaries and we ask for what we want and we go after it. And that's really what happened for me. And I essentially burned it all to the ground. I got a divorce. I bought myself a new house like a big girl. I was 38 years old, right? Like, it's crazy. Full-fledged grown-up. And I closed one really successful, thriving business to open one that came to me, one that found me. And instead of me creating it, it was like, hey, hello, knock, knock, you're a coach. And I was like, ew, a coach, yuck, that's an icky word. I don't like coaches. They're not nice. And then I met the person who would become my coach. And I was like, oh, but you're nice. I like you. And I realized I could do this the way I wanted. I didn't have to do it the way I'd seen other people do it. I could build a life on my own terms. And that's what I help people do now.
Yeah, what I love to say is that life is like a falling into. If we just create the space and allow things to happen, right? We have to first be aware, and then we allow for them to happen, and then it's like an alignment. But, we can predict things till the day is long, but we're usually we're off the mark sometimes, right?
We are.
So when you just create the space for like things to happen, that's when these magical moments happen. I didn't think I was going to be a coach either. Yeah. I didn't think so either. So, but you're holding space for so many people that are living in fear and need you. It's a disservice not to do that brave method. It's a disservice not to share, Heather, with the world. So I love that. And we all have our shifts in our stories, right? And originally you just said that you married the wrong ... and you kind of paused and you said gender, where I'm sure most people are going to say, oh, the wrong man. Oh, right? Yeah. Right. So, and that's a big, that still is something that people are wrapping their heads around, right? So here you are at 38, coming to this realization. How is that for your family, your kids too, being a parent?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My kids, we live in this little lovely liberal bubble just outside of Chicago. My kids didn't give a shit about my sexual orientation. They know lots of families. In fact, subsequently, 3 of my 4 kids have come out as somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum. I'm sure the 4th one's on her way. She's just too little. She doesn't know yet. That was not a problem. Divorce was hard. Having 2 houses is hard. They miss the possibility, the time together. Although my oldest now says, like, it's so weird to think of you and Daddy as married. And she was 9, when we got a divorce. So it's like, it's just so odd. Not a good match. And we weren't. We would have ended up in a divorce anyway. It just would have probably taken longer and been a lot more painful because it was not a good fit. But most of my family, I tell this story. I started coming out very slowly to people that I trusted, good friends. And I can remember every time I would start to tell the story, I would get hot. You know how you get when you're about to do something really terrifying and you start to feel the heat come up from your back and it goes up your neck and you're just sort of hot and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And I would take this big, deep breath and I would say it really quickly and then go, okay, what are they going to say? And everybody said, oh, all right, whatever. That's fine. That's cool. So except for one person, I can tell that story later if you want, but everyone in my whole life eventually was like, this is fine. Not a big deal. In fact, one of my friends goes, oh, thank God that's it. I thought you were going to say you were moving, which is so funny. Like, nope, not moving, just gay. She's like, cool, excellent. What are we doing next week?
Well, I mean, you did move a little bit.
I did, but there was some moving.
You shifted.
There was a big shift. Mm-hmm. But what I strive to say is that eventually that fear to the coming out, and you know, the thing about being queer is you never stop coming out. We have to come out all the time. If we're going to have a conversation with the doctor or fill out a form or apply for a loan or whatever, go to the grocery store and somebody sees that I have kids and, oh, what does dad think about having 4 kids? You know, it doesn't matter all the time. We always have to come out. But eventually I got to a point where it didn't cause me total fear and panic. And I recognized that I was actually breathing fully for the first time in my life. And I didn't even know that I'd been holding my breath.
Wow.
But it took the doing.
Powerful.
It took the facing the fear and the doing over and over and over again to be able to breathe.
So when you took that breath?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not remarkable. It's just the repeated behavior of showing up for yourself and doing what you need and want to be doing for yourself. And eventually, and so this is where my BRAVE method comes into play. If you're using the 3 R's, which is reassess, reframe, and resilience, if you're doing that, which is what I was doing, I created the BRAVE method because it's what saved my life and transformed my business. You go, oh, reassessment. Oh, that doesn't hurt anymore. Or, oh, look where I just met with my CFO right before this conversation. And she's pulling up the year to date from last year of the finances. And she was like, you're up 19% from last year's sales. I'm like, that's so cool. We don't know those things unless we pause and look and reassess and pay attention. And then we go, okay, what do I want to do with that? Now what do I want to do? We learn knowledge from reassessing. We reframe what might not have been great, what sucked in some ways, what we didn't expect or anticipate. And then we get up and we do it again in a different way and keep going.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard because, our brains want to go to fight or flight. The amygdala loves to show up and be like, oh, hey, how you doing? I'm scared. And I'm just going to crawl into a fetal position and we're going to just stay right here. And you've got to be like, oh, hell no. Get your butt up. Right. So it's hard though. It takes time. And it's
super hard.
We live there too. We live in fight or flight. We live there.
That's it. And that's what I want to say. I don't want to mislead anyone. Sometimes I choose the fetal position because that's what I need. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is say no or pause or lay down or clear the calendar and go, fuck this noise. I'm not doing anything today. The key is, of course, we don't stay there. We get back up, but we have to rest. We have to rest.
And we also have to love all parts of ourselves. This is something that I learned recently, is that every part that we are is essential for who we are. And sometimes we're going to be, in the red zone, which is kind of where the dorsal nervous system is, to get all geeky scientific. And then most of the time we want to the ventral too, which is the green light. But we live in yellow. We live in the yield. We live in the middle, which is fight or flight, which is I'm a little nervous of danger. So we want to kind of go from yellow to green rather than be more yellow to red, right?
Yes.
But all of those parts are so important for us to care for and love and nurture and understand. And that's kind of where we get to the fearless, right?
Yeah.
Pull up the big girl panties.
We pull them up, but I don't believe fearlessness exists. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't things that I'm not afraid of, like building a business. In fact, back when I first did it, I don't recall any fear. I have no idea how I did it. I don't know what I did. I don't know how I did it. It wasn't well thought out and planned. It all worked out. It took a really long time. I have a lot more fear as I scale my current business because there's a lot more on the line. I know what I'm doing. I have been really successful. I am a 6-figure plus business. And I'm like, oh, I have people who count on me. I pay employees every month. We need to not fuck this up. Right. But we all have fears. We have different fears.
Yeah.
My fears are different than yours, Hilary. They're different from our friend Alan's. We're afraid of different things at different times. And I like to say sometimes I'm afraid of as many as 10 different things in an hour. It just depends. But I just go, oh, that's interesting. I'm kind of frightened about that. Or I'm avoiding that, or I'm pushing against that. Why am I resisting that?
Yes.
What am I afraid of? And then just getting cozy with it. Because fearlessness, I don't think that's a thing.
I don't think it is either. And that's why I go back to saying that it's about embracing all our parts, because sometimes we're coming from the inner child. Sometimes we had something happen to us and we're repeating the landscape of that moment, and just being able to take it all in and be witness to it and be like, like you said, feeling this right now. This kind of sucks, but I don't feel like staying here. So I'm going to move a little bit towards this way because it's a better direction. But crap, I'm freaking scared, and that's okay. I think we try to put up this front a lot, like, nothing's bothering me. And, as Alan says, and I remember he said this in my podcast episode with him, he said, everybody poops.
It's true.
We do. But I mean, what that means basically is that
that's what he said.
Of course, that's what he said. He's a big goober. But I mean, what that means is like, we all do, we're human. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're okay having crap happen and like own it and just be witness to it and embrace it and be brave. Right.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, if I'd met the lesbians in college, this could be a whole different story. But I didn't know where they were, right? And so this is how it's relevant to what you just said, is like all of the things that we've been through, all of the experiences we've had, all of the choices we've made or haven't made, the chances we've taken or haven't taken, they all bring us to this moment right now. And for better or for worse, I wouldn't change any of them because I love this moment. And this moment isn't always amazing, but my bad days now are still better than my best days then.
Yeah. And honestly, something that I recently was having a conversation recently with another guest about talking about how our crises in our lives are paving the way for our greatest gifts to emerge.
Absolutely.
Right?
Always.
And those traumas, like I said, they can turn into our triumphs. If we don't go through some of the crap we've been through, we would not be where we are today. I would not be doing what I'm doing. You would not be doing what you're doing. I'm sure many listeners out there in the Holistically Speaking podcast space would not be doing what they're doing. It's like you have to embrace these moments that kind of suck in the moment, and you might not realize it in the moment. But when you're on the other side of it, you're like, oh, I get it. I get
100%.
it. I had to do that. I had to go through that.
And that's that hindsight. That rear view is so important, which is, again, you want to reassess it. Like what you want to be continuously setting yourself up to go back and look at what's been happening. Is it what you want? If it's not, what would you want instead? Or what can you do with what happened? How can you change it? Reframe it in a way that's going to support you on the next leg of your journey? Are you still going in a direction you want, or did you change your mind? We don't know if we don't pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was Brave like writing this book?
Yeah. So I actually wrote the book in 29 days. So I participated in Nanowrimo, which is National Novel Writing Month, which is in November, which is dumb. So I don't know why they pick, at least in the US, why did we pick the month of November in the middle of the holidays? And you commit to writing somehow in the course of 30 days, 50,000 words. And for me, I do it in 29 days because my daughter's birthday is the 30th of November, and I want to be available for her all day without having this sort of priority in front of me. And so this was last year, 2020 was the third year I participated in Nanowrimo. The first year I wrote for 23 days straight, and then I went home to my parents' house for Thanksgiving and everything fell apart, but I'd never written for 23 days straight my whole life before then. So that was a win, and that was fine. The second year I wrote a really personal piece. I'm what do they call a rebel, because I always write nonfiction, even though most people are writing novels, so fiction. And I finished it at the airport on the 29th, coming home from New York, where I was with my partner and her family, and I cried and I did a Facebook Live, and everyone at the airport thought I'd lost my damn mind. It was really exciting. And then this one, I knew it was time to write something that I wanted to publish. I knew it was time to take this method that had changed my life and was changing the lives of clients and people I was speaking to and working with on a regular basis. And I wanted it to be part memoir. And then I wanted to highlight, I call them Brave Spotlights. I wanted to highlight either clients or people who've been guests on my podcast, The Brave Files, and then part action. So brave action, like, how do you do this now? What is this? What can this look like for you? Go do this. And I almost treated it like blog posts, quite frankly. Like, I had this huge list of topics that I wanted to touch and how I wanted to tell my story and whose stories I wanted to tell that fit into that letter of the acronym. Brave is an acronym. And I just tackled it bit by bit by bit until we got it done. And it was crazy.
I love that because I think about every time I'm in the midst of putting my book together, which, hey, can I start even though it's mid-November doing this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess you can start anytime. I love it.
And they do a July, they call it Camp Nanowrimo. So they also do it in the month of July. I don't know why. It's not any different. It just doesn't have the big press around it. So you can totally do it. But then it took me a year, right? Then, first of all, when you write like that so intensively for days on end, I just needed to step away. And I came back to it in the spring and did a whole rewrite on my part. And then I sent it to a developmental editor and we did rewrite after rewrite. And then all of the different editing phases and proofing phases. And the next thing you know, we launched the book on October 28th. It became a bestseller in 2 categories, top 10 in 7 categories, including, I'm really proud of this one, top 7 in women in business, which is kind of a hard category to crack. So that was exciting.
Yes.
Super proud.
But going back on what you said, which I love, is that, every time we were blogging or sending out our emails or writing to our listeners, our followers, our tribe, we are really writing a page of the chapter of the book.
Absolutely. Keep all that shit. Folks, people aren't going to remember that they saw this blog post or that social media bit or whatever. Keep all your stuff. You have the content. I would venture to say in almost any case, you have the content. You can expand on the content. Keep track of it. Most of us do not need more creation. We just need more creativity.
Oh, that's a great quote. I love that. So can we go back to brave? What brave means? You said it's an acronym. Yeah. I did not know that. Can you share what is an acronym for?
I can. So brave stands for boundaries.
Uh-huh. Oh, I thought you said you can't. I'm like, wait a minute, girlfriend.
Oh, of course I can. Okay. Of course I can. Yes.
What does BRAVE stand for in acronym? You're fun.
BRAVE stands for boundaries, the 3 R's, reassessment, reframing, and resilience, action and accountability, vulnerability, and then expand and empower. And I want to be really clear. It's designed to meet you where you are over and over and over again because you are always changing and evolving, and it will join you. The first 4 letters you're going to do in all sorts of different orders, and I take you through that in the book. I also have a Brave Method quick guide. If y'all want to have a free download, I can share that link. But you're going to mix and match those based on where you are, what you need, what you're trying to build, whether it's a happier relationship with your spouse or your kids or your friends, or you want to start writing your own book, or you want to start a business or level up, or whatever it is you want to do. But the last one, the E, expand and empower, that's your result. And I want to be really clear that no one can do this but you. Expansion and empowerment are gifts you give yourself when you show up and you do the work. You are the only one. I call total bullshit on any coach or any self-help or anything that says, I empower people to X. No, you don't. We only empower ourselves.
Thank you. What do you mean you didn't want to be a coach? That's bullshit right there.
It was because of what I just said, right? Yeah. This whole slimy sort of follow these steps and you'll be happy, or I can empower you. It didn't feel good, but I had to find the right, there are good and bad people and approaches in every industry. And I just had to find my people and realize that I could do it on my own terms. And I have the very end of the book, I share what my number one rule is. What do you think my number one rule is, Hilary?
What your number one rule is of the brave
My
method?
number one, just in life and in coaching. I know you're never going to guess. I just thought it'd be fun to hear what you would guess.
Well, as a coach myself, what the number one rule is that, I mean, with your clients or yourself?
All across the board. Except I should be careful and not use it with my kids.
Well, does it
Let me
start
just
with an
tell you.
F word?
Yeah, most things do. I use
Most
the F
things
word with my kids all the time. Not at them, but with them.
Do tell.
Is that there are no rules, that you don't have to do anything in any particular way just because you've seen somebody else do it and you think their version of success should be yours or their version of happy should be yours. There are no rules. Do it however you want. We might find a window. We might get a fucking sledgehammer and crack the wall open and climb in through a teeny tiny hole. We are going to help you build a life that you absolutely fucking love on your own terms. And it is going to be different than anybody else has ever done it.
As it should. There are no two alike. It should be different.
No two
I love
alike.
that.
No rules.
I love that. And going back to what you said before about nobody else can empower you, I absolutely 100%, 110% believe that, because a lot of times just with being a coach, but also being a practitioner in mental health, a lot of people like to call me a healer. And I hate that term because it implies like I'm healing others. And I'm like, no, there's only one person I can heal, and it's me. I can give you the tools to help you and guide you, but you're doing the work. It's you.
Yeah.
I'm here. And it's just like with a good coach. Anyone that comes in and says, I can heal you, I can make you, I can empower you, I can do this for you. Well, you're not helping or serving anybody by doing this for them, right? So
Absolutely
yay you
not.
for saying that, because I don't align with that energy. I align with your energy, and I get it. So thank you for putting that out there. I just want to remind people, those who are listening, I mean, there are bajillion coaches out there, bajillion practitioners, doctors, whatevers. And we're all here to guide if we're doing it right.
That's right.
We're not
we can mentor, we can guide, we can lead, we can teach, we can inspire, but you're the one doing the work. And it's my favorite thing to say. And I get clients or listeners to the Brave Files podcast all the time who say, oh, I wouldn't be brave without you, or this wouldn't exist without you. And I said, I didn't do anything. You did all the work. You deserve all the credit. All of
and
it.
That's the empowerment. That's where empowerment comes in. Because then you sit back and you realize, you have the aha moment, like, oh my God, I did that. I did that. I did that. I make that. Because you're making the choice, folks. Everyone listening, you're making the choice to listen to this. You're making the choice to step up and say, I need a coach. You're making the choice to say, I need help. I need to ask. You're making the choice to say, I can do this, but I just need some guidance. That is a brave move right there.
It's so brave. And asking for help is such a sign of strength. It's such a sign of bravery. Just because we can do it all doesn't mean we should do it all or need to do it all, right? Like, I have a whole section of the book dedicated when we talk about action and accountability, delegation and asking for support. And it's life-changing, quite frankly. First of all, as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you're not going to scale if you try to do it on your own, because we just have limits. It's not possible. But even as a evolving human, when I was going through my divorce and starting to travel a lot to speak and building this new business, and I was the primary care providing parent for 4 kids, and they were all very little. The baby was a baby at the time. I couldn't do it. I had to ask for my friends and my neighbors to pick up and drop off. And can you take her to this party? And can we schedule a play date at, whatever it was. And society has taught us as women that if we can't do it all, we're broken. and it's not true. And so it was hard because I'm definitely a just fucking, I'll do it myself. Like I'll just take care of it myself kind of person. But I had to ask for the help in order to do what I needed and wanted to do. And to my shock and amazement, and I don't know why it was so shocking, but it really was, my favorite result of that was how loved I felt, how willing people were to support me. People want to help.
They do. And you know what? That's bravery right there, is stepping up and saying, I need help, you know?
Absolutely.
And
it is.
it's amazing
Absolutely.
to see how many people will say, okay, let me see what I can do. You will get the let me see what I can do, or let me look into that for you, more than you'll get the I don't think so. And if you get the I don't think so, those aren't your people. Those aren't your people.
Yeah, it's totally fine. What's the worst thing that could happen? And most of the time it's people say no, or they ignore you, or they don't respond. You know, whatever we're fearing, let's just say, let's use writing a book as an example. And people are terrified. And what if people don't like it? Okay. So that sucks, except you've still done the goddamn thing. You wrote a book. You showed up. You did it, right? If you put it out there, the worst thing that could happen, probably, maybe you'd get your feelings hurt. I don't know. Like somebody found a typo in my book. I probably shouldn't admit that. And I was like, man, that really sucks. But I wrote a book and it's good. And I'm human.
Words.
Yeah.
Right?
320 pages. There's a typo. Surprise, surprise.
Although I'm that person that when I go to restaurants, I look at the menu, I'm like, oh, total typo.
I know. I am too. I catch typos. We read this damn thing. I know, my friend, and it was a dear friend, and he did it at my book lunch party. And he's even mentioned in the book. And I was like, did you see your name in the book? He was like, yeah, but can I tell you something? And I was like, this is not the time. Shut your mouth. Tell me tomorrow.
It's all right. It's all good.
But I mean, I talk about authenticity and vulnerability. And I want you guys to know that I produce a book that I'm really proud of. And it's not 100% perfect, because we are human beings. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend or mislead or misguide. Do I still think it's fucking awesome and absolutely valuable and can change your life? 100% I do. Just be nice to me, yo. Like, you know, I would say the book will resonate with anyone as long as you like lesbians, curse words, and exclamation points, because I am a Gen Xer and we love exclamation points.
Sign me up. Love it. Oh my gosh. I got to get my hands on this book. I'm excited.
Thank you.
I'm just jazzed for you, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. I want to stop for a second just to say thank you to our friends over at SquadCast for holding space for us to actually put this podcast out there into the podcast airwaves. They're amazing. And if you are interested in starting a podcast of your own, be brave, be fearless, but not fearless. And do it, because
embrace your fears.
Embrace your fears. Start the podcast. I actually have a link where you can try it out for a couple days and see if it works for you. They're amazing and they have awesome customer support. But I would love to talk about someone who is offering even more support, and that is Heather Vickery. She's my guest on the HIListically Speaking podcast. She is telling us all about the brave method, how to fuck fearless, how to be everything you want to be and embrace every part of yourself. And you just mentioned, so I want to hold space for you to say this, you have a download that you can offer?
Absolutely. If you're curious about the Brave Method and you're not quite ready, if you want to get the book, go to vickeryandco.com/guide and get the Brave Method 101 quick guide. Just a short, down and dirty, here's what it is. And if you're like, this is fascinating, get a copy of the book or come and join me in my free community. It is currently housed on Facebook, which I don't love, but that's where we are. It's called Brave on Purpose. And the Brave on Purpose Collective is just a group of people like you and me, Hilary, and I'm sure all of your listeners who are ready to leverage their fear into intentional bravery, because when we choose bravely on purpose, we choose bigger, we win bigger, and it's contagious. So come hang out.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll put those links on the podcast page as well. But I want to go back to something you just said. You just said, I don't love it. Talk to me about that. You don't love the podcast? You don't love the Facebook page?
I don't love Facebook. I love my group.
Yeah.
But I don't love Facebook. I'm looking to actively figure out how to move my whole thing completely off of Facebook. I
Just
love
give
the
people-
group. The group is awesome. Come and hang out. But
Just
until
give
I come
people
up
a
with
key
an
to your
alternative.
house. Just give people the
how
key to your
about
house.
no?
Why not? Right. No, that's another group location. I hear you though. I mean, I think social media can be very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. And we're always some new platform, something starts, something opens up, all these rules, can't say this, can't say that. I'm sure with you dropping the F-bomb a couple times a minute, that meta, as we have to call it now, it's so meta. Oh my gosh, I can't. Are you going to start calling it Meta? It's still Facebook, right? It's going to be a forever Facebook. Listen, Zuckerberg, we're keeping it Facebook. Meta, whatever.
I mean, that's still the platform, right? That's
Yeah,
still
I
that.
know.
It's just the parent company that changed. But
I
I don't know.
guess,
I'm not a fan
whatever.
of what they're doing, and I don't miss it. And one of my personal boundaries is that I take Facebook off of my phone on Friday
Smart.
afternoons, and I don't put it back up until Monday afternoon. And I really don't, unless I have a hard deadline or I'm doing a speaking engagement. I don't open my computer on the weekend. I have really firm work hour boundaries, and so I detox. I do go on Twitter though. I love Twitter. So
I'm a
much.
Twitterholic too.
And
I think you might be my spirit animal.
Are we friends
I'm
on
not really
Twitter?
sure. No, we will
It
be.
could
But
be.
I think you're my
Alan's going to be
spirit
so
animal.
jealous.
Oh, Alan. Well, no, actually, he would probably love two women oogling and talking about him. So,
Oh, maybe. Of course he will. He's blushing
Of
right
course.
now.
he's
We're
gonna be
probably both
editing
getting
this.
text messages right at this point in the editing process.
Totally. All right, so let's move into that. Talking about Alan Seals, the producer of creator of the Broadway Podcast Network, also the theater podcast, and now going to be doing a podcast with you called "Was It Chance?" Is that what the question mark? Was it chance?
It is with a question mark. It totally is. And it's so much fun. So Alan and I met accidentally as perfect strangers at a podcasting conference. So we talk about manifestation and how we create things into existence. But it isn't just by accident. It's by intention, right? And when it comes to making your creative dreams come true, what truly matters is actually putting yourself out there in a position to thoughtfully and intelligently take advantage of the opportunities presented to you. And sometimes they show up in really unexpected ways, like me and Alan meeting and me and Alan introducing me to you, Hilary, my spirit animal. And so we interview really cool people who are out showing up, embracing opportunity, taking intentional risks, and building really successful creative lives. And it's a really fun show.
It is so much about intention. And when I was talking to Alan about it, I'm like, oh, like sliding doors. I mean, it's like
A little bit,
nothing,
which I'm obsessed with.
I love that. I love that movie. But it's not that things just happen accidentally. We're putting that out there in the universe. We are energy. It's all vibration. And I always say this to my clients continuously, and to family and friends too that are struggling with this. But it's how you put it out there in the universe. Don't say what you don't want. Oh, I don't want that.
Exactly.
You have to change, because the universe, or whatever you believe in, source, God, spirit, angels, Buddha, whatever.
I'm a universe girl myself.
Yeah.
I use the word the universe a lot.
Me too. And because it is universal, and whatever you're putting out there, you have to be really clear with your message. Not, gosh, I don't want to attract any more of these yutzes. Okay. Don't say it that way. Say, I'm going to attract the most amazing centered a relationship because I'm centered.
Absolutely.
We have to change the language. And I'm a true believer in the intention and setting your intentions, because when you put it out there, you're manifesting it because you see it every day. You see it every day. You see it every day. And you have to be witness to it every day. And people, you can't psych yourself out. You can't psych yourself out, right?
No, you can't.
You
and
can't.
I'm a big visualizer. I love all of the things you're saying, picturing it, imagining it, and reframing your words. I am certified in positive psychology. Reframing, the 3 R's. It always comes back to the brave method. And I've actually written 2 books and gratitude journals. One is for adults called Shift Your Focus. One is for kids and families. I'm showing them off to Hilary right now, called Grow Grateful. So it's a short book, talks about my journey towards gratitude, the power of gratitude, the science behind gratitude, ways to have a gratitude practice. And then it's a guided journal. All of that to say, wasn't really a book plug, although it turned into that. When I'm working with my clients, I ask them to list 10 things they're grateful for at the end of the calls. And they go, 10? Oh, 10 things. And I'm like, listen, if you can't come up with 10 things you're grateful for, then we got bigger problems than what you walked in the door for. But I had this one client years ago. She'd been traveling. This was pre-pandemic. And here's how she shared what she was grateful for. She said, I'm grateful that the plane I was on last night didn't crash. I'm grateful that my plants weren't dead. Like, she went down the whole list like that. And I was like, okay, friend, can we talk about your word choice here? Like, how does it make you feel to say that? And what would it feel like if you said, I'm really grateful I landed safely. I'm grateful my beautiful plants are alive, right? Like, doesn't that feel different? Because your brain and your body and your neural pathways, they receive it differently. Your words matter so much.
Absolutely. I mean, oh gosh, so such my spirit animal. I can't, you are hitting the nail on the head, because we totally have the capacity. And this is in the work I do inhibiting in mental health and holistic health, that we have the ability to change the landscape of our brain. We have the ability to alter our thoughts, moods, and behaviors. We have the ability to change the neural pathways. And I think a lot of people are starting to kind of get into this and realize, like, this thing right here, we're driving it. We're driving the wheel of our minds. And
That's
how
right.
you steer that car is going to make a big difference in the direction it goes. So you can steer towards trying to not get into a plane action, or you can say, I'm going to arrive safely.
Hilary, let me ask you, this is going to come out of left field, but I've been having this conversation with some coaches on my team, Brave certified coaches, who are neurodiverse. And they are on a mission to prove to me that the negative thought patterns are motivating to neurodiverse people. And I'm curious, from your training and expertise, I have a really hard time believing that, but I am not neurodiverse, and we're supposed to believe people, right? We believe they are neurodiverse. This is what they're telling me. I should believe them, but I need to understand the science behind that, because it's not logical to me, and it's not what has been scientifically proven up until this point. And so I really just want to hear what you thought about it. So
those who are characterized, basically, when you say neurodiverse, are you talking about like autism, or what do you mean by neurodiverse? Probably for sure autism. Maybe just autism. I think they both also have Asperger's. ADHD. Okay, so
Asperger's, which is an autism.
Yeah,
and I think that maybe it's just word choice, because I don't think it's negative, but they don't have a problem with hard truths, because facts are facts. There's less gray area. It's all very black and white.
I think there's possibility for everyone in anything.
Yeah,
I don't ever want to say that we're putting. First of all, it's putting a label on someone and saying you're untouchable. That's no different than going back to the days of, like, psychiatric wards where they were doing really horrible treatments on people.
Help you.
Yeah, like, no. So I'm a firm believer in possibility, and I've seen it with some clients. And like, I also work. I mean, before I was even a practitioner, I used to do therapeutic horseback riding, which I'd love to get back into now. The pandemic's kind of behind us. But seeing the change, even with children on the spectrum that were riding horses, doing their occupational therapy and leading these horses and watching the change, I'm sorry, that's changing some kind of neural pathway, because they go from inaudible to audible.
Totally agree. And to be fair, it's not that they're not saying we shouldn't do this work. They're just telling me that it's not helpful to tell neurodiverse people that their words matter. And I just don't have a hard time. I have a hard time believing that it wouldn't always be helpful to say, can we try and see how that feels?
Yeah.
If we shift
I like that, because I would never say something is never to somebody, period. Why would I do it to someone who's neurodiverse? Like, why are you putting why are you putting them in a box? Why are you saying I can't or you can't? And even if science comes back with a can't, I can't. So does that make sense? So that's my can't.
I think words matter a lot.
Yeah, I think words absolutely matter. Absolutely. How we talk to ourselves. Yeah. It's not just how we talk to others. What words are you saying to yourself? That's the big thing. What kind of resonance And empathy do you have for you before you even spew out words to other people? How we talk to ourselves is absolutely 100%, without a doubt, important, because it does make a difference every day, anyway, all the time. Yeah.
All the time. I'm with
Does that
you.
answer your question? And I love that you asked me a question.
I know, right? Flip the script on it a little bit.
Love
It's just something that's been front of mind lately. Maybe we should talk about it more.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
We
I think it's really
should.
fascinating.
We're going to have more conversations. Absolutely. Definitely. But before we go any further, I want to play a little game with you.
I love games.
Hurrah. So I do the word association game. I do a little rapid fire. And I basically been writing down some words that you've been saying during our combo. And I'm just going to throw them out at you. And I want you to say the first word that comes to mind.
Oh, gosh.
I have like 30 words written here. You probably have the most amount of words I've ever written down of a guest. But I'm going to try to cross them off as I go so I don't repeat myself, because there's some good words here. So you ready?
Okay.
All right. Boundaries.
Strength.
Entrepreneur.
Brave.
Divorce.
Hard.
Book.
Happy.
Gratitude.
Life.
Brave.
Everything.
Fear.
Normal.
Empower.
Yours.
Fuck.
Yes.
It's fun to say that word. I feel like I feel like a little kid, I'm going to get in trouble, and I'm okay with that.
When my now almost 12-year-old, she'll probably be 12 when this episode airs. She was about 3. She came up to me. She goes, Mommy, can I say fuck? And I said, no, Tessa, you can't say fuck. And she's like, but I really want to say fuck. And I'm like, no, you can't say fuck. And so she throws herself on the floor, full tantrum. I want to say fuck. I want to say fuck. It's one of my favorite memories. She says it now. Sorry, folks. Judge me if you want to.
She said it 4 times before you said you can't say it. She got it out.
Several times in that conversation, I told her that she couldn't say it. That's this kid. This kid gets what she wants. She's clever.
Is she an apple off the mother's tree?
A little bit. She's incredibly emotive and intuitive. It's really fun to watch her navigate the world, because she sees things in a way that most people don't. So it's fun.
That's going to be cool to watch her grow up.
For sure.
Very cool. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you if there's anything you want to share with Holistically Speaking listeners. Besides the fact that you have this amazing book, Fuck Fearless, you have the Brave Method. There are many ways to get in touch with you. You are also generously going to be providing a download. We're going to put that in the podcast link. And you've got this new podcast that is going to be launching or is launching by the time this comes out, which is with my producer, Alan Seals, who is also a dear, dear friend. So excited for you both. And that is I love to answer some questions that you're asking, which is basically, was it chance? I love saying it like that. Was it chance?
I know, so do we. Was it chance?
or was it whatever? Was it chance, or was it what? What would be the alternative?
That's plans. I don't know. Missed. I think it's more about missed connections. You created it or you missed it. You look for those opportunities.
How many drinks did you guys have when you came up with this idea?
Believe it or not, none. It was the course of several days. We talk all about it in our pilot episode.
Love it.
We laugh so much. I'm like, man, Alan, you're going to have a hell of a time editing this show, because there was so much laughter. It'll be different when we have guests on, but this first one was just us, and we're silly.
Excited.
But what do I want to say to your listeners?
Yes. What do you want to leave with them? Oh, and are you giving away a copy of this book? I'm reading that in the notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hurrah.
Yes.
Okay, so how are we doing that?
I am happy to give away a copy of the book. How do we want to do that?
You know what? I'm going to do something fun.
How do you want to do that, Hilary?
We're going to give away a copy. I'm just going to say it right now. That Heather is graciously also giving away a copy of Fuck Fearless, and I'm going to put details on that on the podcast page.
Because there are no rules.
Because there are no rules, and sometimes no structure is the best structure.
I love it. Yes. We'll figure out the perfect way, folks.
Yes, we will. So what would you like to leave with listeners?
What I want to leave listeners with is that you are brave, that there are 100 different ways to choose bravely every day. And you get to decide. Define your bravery like you define your success on a moment by moment, day by day basis. Because when you start to embrace everyday bravery, it's going to feel so fucking good.
I love that. I felt that. That was very intentional and very authentic. Thank you so much for being here. What a pleasure. You're fun. Why do you have to live so far away?
Oh, thank you. Oh,
come visit.
You come visit me.
I love Chicago. I would totally come visit you, but we'll get to hang. I'm sure there's plenty of other podcast meetups happening. You're going to be in town.
Yeah, we got to get you at a podcast conference.
I know. This next year is going to be a good one. So I love my fellow podcasters, especially my women podcasters, especially my Alan podcasters. And I'm really excited. I'm excited for you both because this is going to be a really awesome collaborative effort. And thank you so much for being here and being you and being brave.
Thank you for having me. So much fun. You too. What a fun way to spend the afternoon. Thank you.
And guess what? The fun continues because Heather is in fact giving one lucky listener a copy of her book, Fuck Fearless. And here's all you have to do. Just leave a rating and review of this episode on Apple Podcast. And you can also take it one step further. Go ahead and leave one on the Brave Files podcast and Was It Chance podcast. Why not? It gets you listening to great conversations. And also, would I steer you in the wrong direction? I don't think so. And then just let me know that you left some kind words and I'll check it out. And Heather's book could be right in your own hands. And if this episode touched, moved, and inspired you in any way, be brave and pass it along to one more person. Of course, you can also download a copy of Heather's awesome Brave on Purpose guide. The link to that download is on the podcast page. And if you want to get in touch with me, you know I'm always here for you. So just drop me a DM on social media at Hilary Russo, or you can head on over to my website at hilaryrusso.com. HIListically Speaking is available on all podcast platforms, but don't forget to leave that rating and review on Apple. Edited by Alan Seals, music by Litbone Redding, and of course, recorded on SquadCast. As always, thanks for listening. Be kind to your mind. Don't forget to laugh. And oh yeah, one more thing. Go be brave. We're counting on you.